Hello everyone, my name is Mike Coutrier and this is my second video called White Box Testing. So let's crack the hood on white box testing. What is white box testing, or rather known as clear box testing? Is a program or function which is based on covering all the branches or paths of the code. It can be applied at the unit, integration, and system levels of the software testing process. We ask ourselves, why is white box testing so useful? White box testing is so useful because logical errors tend to creep into our work when we design and implement functions, conditions, or controls that are out of the program. The design errors due to difference between logical flow of the program and the actual implementation. And it helps with typographical errors and syntax checking. Now let's look at our first example, our first real world example of white box testing. When we look at white box testing, we can think of white box testing as a concept or idea like building and checking an automobile. As you build and create an automobile, you want to make sure that each functional part of the automobile works, even though each single part that makes up a car does not have to be used as the car is driven. As a car is made, the parts for that car are checked before they are placed on the car. For example, as the car is made up with steering wheels, windshield wipers, engine, tires, leather seats, every part that makes up the car does not have to be used to make the car drivable. This is quite similar to the concept in white box testing, in that you check the automobile or program even though the windshield wipers, quote unquote, branches are not used at all times. Now let's move on to our coding example, since we've moved on from the real world example. Now with white box testing, you must run the code with the predetermined input and check to make sure that the code produces predetermined outputs. Now for example, if you wanted to move a player instance, player 1, 2 spaces on the board, we have a function named move player, player 1, 2. A white box test case would execute this driver line of code and check player.getPosition to make sure that the player is now on the expected cell on the board. Now in remembering white box testing, there's a 5-fold testing system, starting with people, coverage, risks, activities, and finally, evaluation. When we think of this 5-step process, we should ask ourselves questions. So, who does the testing? So think about this. The developers do the testing. And number 2, coverage. What exactly gets tested as we try to check our code? And so on and so forth. So we ask these questions. Why are you testing? How are you testing? How you know you found a bug? Now in the bigger scheme of things, we look at software engineers and the fact that they can design test cases and exercise independent paths within a module or unit. They can also exercise logical decisions on both their true and false side. They can execute loops at their boundaries and within their operational bounds, and also exercise internal data structures to ensure their validity. Furthering the bigger scheme of things, white box testing is a security testing method that can be used to validate whether code implementation follows intended design. To validate implemented security functionality and to uncover exploitability vulnerabilities. So white box testing is very, very, very important in terms of security and making sure that what you're doing is not being exposed or hacked. And that is it for our session of white box testing. Hope to see you again.